Hello and welcome to Motorland Aragon for the fourth round of the 2021 Spanish Formula 4 Championship. My name is Leo Gorman, welcoming you to what is a nice, bright and sunny day, very much unlike yesterday evening when this race was actually originally supposed to take place. Heavy thunderstorms coming into this circuit in the northeastern region of Spain forced the cancellation of that race, and as such it has been moved to very early this morning, as I'm sure you can see from the shadows of the cars as they go around on the dummy lap to the grid. What we can tell you is we did have a qualifying session yesterday before the deluge, and it has resulted in a fourth consecutive pole position for Danilo van 't Hoff, the MP Motorsport racer and the championship leader, and actually gives him an additional 2 points in the championship, extending his lead over Sebastian Ogier to 85 points. So Danilo van 't Hoff on pole position for MP Motorsport. Second on the grid will be Vladislav Ryabov in the GRS racing machine. That's his best qualifying of the season so far. Third on the grid is Josep Marti for Campos Racing, with Enric Bordas in fourth on the grid for the Formula de Campinoscar. Bordas, he is currently fourth in the championship, although a slightly indifferent round last time out in Portimao, seen him fall away slightly from the battle for second in the standings. Guillermo Oliveira is the highest placed DriveX racer. He's going to be fifth on the grid with his teammate Maxim Arkanchelskis. He is running sixth on the grid. Arkanchelski ran very well in practice. He was the fastest driver in free practice one earlier on this weekend. Eighth on the grid is Daniel Mazzia, the second Formula de Campinoscar, and Mazzia, of course, is third in the championship with 87 points. That puts him 90 behind van 't Hoff. Then ninth on the grid is Sebastian Ogier. He is the second driver in the championship. He is the next Campos driver. He is curr't,ly, as I said, with 92 points, puts him a solid amount, 85 points, behind van 't Hoff. And then rounding out the top 10 on the grid is Gilles Molina, the MP Motorsport driver. And it's a trio of MP Motorsport drivers in the middle of the grid there. Rick Cohn, 11th on the field, just ahead of 12th place Manuel Espirito Santo.
Os escucho perfectamente, por fin estamos aquí después de los problemas técnicos que tuvimos ayer. Como sabéis, tenéis que disculparnos porque cayó una tromba de agua, una granizada, apenas 2 minutos antes de que comenzara la carrera de Fórmula 4, que finalmente tuvo que ser suspendida, y por eso estamos aquí tan pronto esta mañana de domingo, 9 menos 20 de la mañana, primera carrera de Fórmula 4 en el circuito de Motorland Aragón, aproximadamente unos 17 grados en el ambiente y 56% de humedad después de toda la que cayó ayer, aunque hoy está muy soleado, no se esperan lluvias. Y aquí estamos en la primera posición, donde tenemos a un Dylan van 't Hoff que saldrá de nuevo para pelear por ese campeonato que mantiene, pero tiene muy de cerca a sus rivales, y también tenemos muy cerca, en la cuarta y sexta posición, creo, más o menos, a los españoles, a Quique Bordas y a Pepe Martí, que veremos cómo lo hacen en esta primera cita de Motorland. Y bueno, estaremos aquí como siempre al pie de la noticia, como tú bien decías, José Manuel. Encantada, por cierto, de tenerte de nuevo por aquí, igual que allá por 2019, y le mandamos un saludo muy grande y un abrazo muy fuerte a Cristian Mestres, que efectivamente, como comentabas, está ahí narrando la Fórmula 2 y la Porsche Cup, que lo harás súper bien y estaremos muy atentos también, así que te mandamos un beso muy grande, que te echaremos de menos, pero estamos muy bien acompañados con José Manuel.
And thank you, Laura, there, delivering some updates from the front of the field. Moving on with the grid, 13th on the grid, as you see there, is the map where Motorland Aragon, as I mentioned, very much in the northeastern part of Spain. Oliver Mitchell, 13th on the grid for the Campos entry, ahead of George Kelstrup. Then Alejandro Garcia, 15th, ahead of Brandon Oxley, 16th on the grid. 17th is Zuliman Sanfari, as we see the times coming up on screen now. And as I mentioned, Daniel van 't Hoff. It's a 7th pole position of the season, and it's very much a bonus for van 't Hoff. It's 2 points for pole positions for races 1 and 3. So he's actually earned quite a bonus. It's 4th in a row, 7th of the season so far, and he's really been able to make it count. There's been 9 races so far in this championship. He has won 4 of them, and it's very much been a championship. As you see the rest of the field go through there, it's very much been a championship of consistency and pace and some victories from Danilo Vanthof. Whereas individual rounds, we've seen drivers come through. Last time out in Portimao, Sebastian Ogier took 2 wins and scored a very, very big haul of points. The previous round before that at Navarra, Enric Bordas scored a couple of wins and took a big haul of points. And then prior to that, Daniel Matzia at Spa-Francorchamps in the season opener did well. But in all 3 of those rounds, Vanthof also won or scored very, very heavily, as the cars now moving on to their formation lap at this Motorland Aragon circuit. Using the MotoGP layout for this weekend. It's going around the top end of the circuit. And the Formula 4 record, just for those who keep a note of these things, set by Richard Verschoor in 2016 is a 1 minute 51.1. It'd be unlikely that the drivers will get close to that time in this race, given the manner in which the track was really washed last night with the heavy rain. But it is a pace that is comparable really to Moto2 for those who are familiar with the MotoGP Championship. As you see Vanthof making his way around turn 7 with the iconic really wall in the background. This is a circuit, by the way. It's actually a relatively new circuit, opened in 2009, designed by Herman Tilke in partnership with Foster and Partners, with former F1 driver Pedro de la Rosa, the technical consultant. It's a challenging circuit, relatively quick, but has got enough slow sections to really challenge both ends of the driver. So you either very, very, very technical, enjoy a kind of high downforce setup, or you enjoy the quick sections with a very low downforce or medium downforce setup. It's not a single approach kind of circuit by any stretch of the imagination. See the field now coming around the latter few corners and onto the start-finish grid itself. Vanthof at the front there in the red and black entry. He's going to be on the left-hand side of your screen. Rybov on the right-hand side of your screen is the green and black entry. Pepe Marti in the white car with the black nose cone, 3rd on the grid there, while Bordas is going to be the orange car with the black engine cover. He's lining up 4th on the grid. 5th there, Oliveira in a DriveX. Very much, think of it as the Fernando Alonso colours. It's kind of a team he has a partnership with, so very much lots of blue, some yellow and red. Meanwhile, the engines rev, the lights count down, and the race is on, and it's a good start by Vanthof as he edges ahead going into turn 1, just ahead of Rybov into the quick left and then right-hander. Pepe Marti still 3rd following the first few corners. As the race underway, 25 minutes plus 1 lap for today's race. Vanthof ahead of Rybov, ahead of Marti. Bordas 4th place. Dengbal up to 5th. Oliveira drops to 6th. Matcha up to 7th ahead of Arkin Kelski. And there's a little bit of a slide there from Rybov. He's under pressure very much from Marti. Ran wide and goes wide again, but will Marti get the inside this time around? He has. Marti does go into 2nd place, taking advantage there of the very much a slip and slidey Ryabov. And this is what I mentioned. The track very much washed last night with the heavy rainstorm. It's going to be quite green. There's not going to be a huge amount of grip. And we saw that there now. Ryabov in third place under pressure from Enric Bordas. And several drivers down the field making up positions as well. Oliver Mitchell breaks his way into the top 10 just ahead of George Kelstrup. Both of them have taken advantage of Rick Cohn, but Vanthof early on in this lap has a fantastic advantage. He is 1.7 seconds ahead of Josep Marti as they round the very quick turn 16 bend. And Bordas fallen away slightly from Ryabov as they exited that final corner. And not really able to take advantage of Ryabov's slight error on that first lap. Ryabov would be desperately hoping to at least hold on to this position. He was, of course, running in the podium positions very late on in the last race at Portimao, but in a battle with Rick Cohn, and actually lost it on the last couple of laps. Ended up finishing fourth, his best finish so far in Spanish Formula 4. Daniel Matzia, slightly down the order, has taken 8th position from Sebastian Ogard, one of the championship runners. Well, Ogard second in the championship. If it continues like this, he probably won't hold that position in the point standings following this round. Meanwhile, Vanthof has built a gap of 2 seconds. And that's really been very typical, I think, of the Spanish Formula 4 Championship. If you're in a fight, if it's a tight battle, the field does tend to remain close together. It is very, very, very difficult to break away in these cars. But if you do break away, it is possible to kind of make a run for it. We saw that a couple of times with Ogard last time out at Portimao. Vanthof, his gap to Marti is now 2.1 seconds. Marti now under pressure again. Ryabov has regained his composure, as we have a driver in the pit lane, by the way, Alejandro Garcia. It looks like he may have had an incident somewhere on the circuit. He has gone into the pit lane. But after his issue on the opening lap, Ryabov really does seem to have regained his composure and is now less than 0.4 of a second behind Marti. You can see the Russian driver shadowing Pepe Marti very much. Marti, 16-year-old Spanish racer for Campos Racing, doing a relatively solid job so far this year. Currently 7th in the standings. Well, Ryabov's actually qualified well on several occasions, but has struggled sometimes to make it really count in the races themselves, and has often fallen through the field. I think that last race at Portimao was probably one of the first times this year we've seen him truly show proper consistency in the race. The pace is there, maybe the consistency hasn't been. As we see Ryabov continuing to shadow Marti for second place, and just behind them, Dengbol and Oliveira is shadowing Bordas for 4th place. And Arkanchelski and Matzia just behind them. Best lap last time round for Danilo Vanthof. He has completed 3 laps of this race. His best lap so far, 1:52.682. His gap now 2.2 seconds, but Pepe Marti doesn't have that kind of breathing room, as you can see on screen. the Campos Racing driver holding the GRS competitor back. Still only 0.3 of a second, and Rybov is closing, but it's only hundredths of a second at a time, thousandths of a second at a time. He's not really able yet to make the critical move to get past into second place. But he has definitely broken away from Bornas. That gap between the two of them is 1.1 seconds. That chain is broken. Marty not really looking in his mirrors Rybov not really looking in his mirrors anymore. Marty's very much looking in his mirrors. He's got Rybov just behind him. It's a very difficult car to miss. Bright kind of green with the black nose cover. Marty with the mostly white car with the black nose cone. It's also an element of status quo as well. Rybov, to a degree, he's been held by Marty. He probably can go quicker, but until he actually gets past Marty, he can't actually put that into action. But he also can't quite get close enough yet to make a solid overtaking maneuver. As they come through, it's a very, very long winding turn 16 that takes them onto the start-finish straight, as we see some action in the back of the field. And some little bit of weaving there, it must be said. That's Boras, Stengball, and then you have Oliveira and Arkankelski. The field coming through now onto lap 5 of this race. Also, Marty did take a couple of tenths of a second off of Danilo Vanthof on that last lap. But I can't imagine it's a scenario whereby Vanthof is strictly worried, really, at this pace. There's still 16.5 minutes plus 1 lap of this race left. Vanthof just making his car work just enough. It's all he needs to do. If he keeps that 2-second gap to Marty, he will be fine. He doesn't need to push the tires too much. He doesn't need to take unnecessary risks. Doesn't need to push so hard that he risks damaging the car in any way, shape or form. But Marty is pushing. He is being pushed as well. Rybov really trying to seize an opportunity to take second place, while Boras, fourth place. He's under significant pressure right now from Noah Dengbal. Rybov on the tail of Marty there for second place, but again, can't quite just get close enough, but he's going to have a go. And looks to the outside, which blends into the left-hander. Can't quite get the run there. Again, as we go into this long, lingering left-hander, can Rybov stay close enough to actually get a run on Marty coming down the start-finish straight? Boras has been passed by Oliveira. But meanwhile, Rybov does try and hold a little bit of a different line to push Marty, but cannot quite claim the position yet. But that is probably his most aggressive lap so far. Gap now. It's Vanthof leading by 2.5 seconds. Then you have Marty, who's got a 1.5 tenths of a second gap over Rybov. Then Oliveira, who's jumped into fourth place. He is making up time on Marty and Rybov ahead, courtesy of their fight. Dengbal, there's been an issue with Dengbal somewhere. Boras, 5th place. Arkanchelska, 6th. Masia, 7th place. Kelstrup, 8th. Ogard, still 9th. Rick Cohn up to 10th place. And Rybov has got Marty. Very well done. And takes second place. Finally forced the issue past his Spanish rookie. I could really sense that was beginning to come. Rybov being far more aggressive of the two, and Rybov was slipping and sliding on that first lap and lost that second place. Marty may have pushed a little bit too hard and has lost that second position to Ryabov. Another driver who may have pushed a little bit too hard and is struggling at the moment is Enric Bornas, who's now fallen down to 7th place. Arkanchelski and Matsia have got past the second-year driver in this category. And Matsia there, he's got Kelstrup. Bornas just there. And Bornas has actually just got past back Kelstrup around the outside, but it's the two Formula Campagnós cars together. Matsia, 6th place. Bornas up to 7th. Let's see, did he actually make that move definitely work? Yes, he has. And that is another issue with this track being very much washed clean last night, is if you do get offline, it can be very, very, very tricky, if not impossible, to kind of make it back straight away. There's extra dust, there's extra dirt, there's extra just grime and detritus that will lay claim to the surface of your tyres. So it will take that little bit longer to find the real feel of grip again. Kelstrup now chasing Bordas to retake that 7th place. Bordas, meanwhile, will be looking to get back into the top 4, but he will have a very, very limited amount of time. Cohn has also gotten past Ogard, that's for 9th and 10th place. Ogard will not be pleased with that, falling further back compared to his championship rivals. Meanwhile, Ryabov there in the green and black GRS entry, 2nd place in this race. 3.5 seconds behind race leader Vanthof, and that is Noah Dengball in the pits. His race over, his race done, puts the steering wheel back on, gets out of the car forlornly after running in the points. It'll be interesting to see a replay from that end. See what befell the Danish racer. The field coming through now to begin the 8th lap of the race. Kelstrup has retaken Bordas for 7th and 8th positions. There's a couple of other drivers in the pits. So Bramchik has also joined the pits, and Jorge Campos further down the field. They were running 17th and 19th positions. And Rick Cohn now also get past Bordas. And I wonder if Bordas maybe has pushed his tyres a little bit too much. And maybe he's just struggling, beginning to struggle really on his camp. And there is actually Norma Bramchik in the pits, describing maybe contact with the rival that has put him out of this race. Meanwhile, as you see in the top left of your screen, that's Vanthof going through in the lead of this race. His gap 3.6 seconds. Then Rybov, then Marti, then Oliveri, then Arkankelski, and Matsia. And Rybov really he's broken the back of that fight with Marti. The gap now just over a second. And Marti not really close enough. And right now, doesn't really look like making the gap to close in on 2nd place. At the same time, Oliveira also not close enough to necessarily put Marti under pressure. One driver under pressure is Mattia. He has got Kelstrup and Cohn just behind. As you see them coming through there, that's Mattia in the orange car. Then you have Cohn in the... And it's Zanfari actually going through the picture there in 13th place. He's got Molina just behind him. Espirito Santo just ahead. That's 12th, 13th, 14th place. Back to this. Matsia does have a small gap over Kelstrup. It's been a fantastic drive by Kelstrup so far. Started 14th up to 7th. He's 6th in the championship, so I was really hoping to make something back in this race, and so far he has. Cohn just behind them in 8th place. Bornas really has, his pace really has fallen off. And his laps at the moment are in the late 1 minute 52s, while those around him are several seconds a lap faster. both Kelstrup and Cohen in the light blue and white machines. Both of them, of course, racing for MP Motorsport. And this is it. They're going side by side. And that Cohen making an effort through to take Kelstrup for 7th place. Going down the inside. Wheel to wheel. I think Cohen may have just made it. Really forcing the issue, but Kelstrup is there as well. He's not giving this up. Gets in the draft, gets right under the rear wing of his teammate. Because teammate at this level, very much in inverted commas sometimes. So can Kelstrup get close enough to make the move as they come around this long left-hand corner that will eventually take them onto the start-finish straight? This gives Daniel Mattia in 6th place ahead of him just a little bit of a breather. And Cohen, for now, able to hold 7th place over Kelstrup. Bordas still there. And Bordas's pace is still the same as it was a couple of laps ago. It's just this fight between Cohen and Kelstrup has actually slowed them up somewhat. And as these tyres go away, the pace really beginning to fall off now. I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, the lap record for Formula 4 here is a 1 minute 51.1. Well, clearly that's not going to happen today. The fastest lap of this race so far is a 1 minute 52.2. A lot of drivers now falling into the 53s. That's Masia. That's Cohen. Gets Kelstrup. Followed by Bordas. Allgard in 10th place. Mitchell in 11th. Sanfari 12th. All running relatively close together, but not close enough to force an issue, to force a mistake, to force a way past. But Cohen wants to change that. He has closed up to the back of Mattia in 6th position. That gap now only a couple of tenths of a second. Cohen looking very, very feisty so far this morning. And he did look, and again, this is in scenario, has Mattia maybe blown his tyres a little bit too much and someone going off in the background? I do believe that might have been Oliver Mitchell. Cohen, 7th place. There is a left-hander coming up. He goes around the outside. Can he get a slingshot effect around? And he's going to try it. He's going to try right around the outside of Daniel Mattia into 6th place. Doesn't quite work, but he does slot in right behind the rear wing as they come down to the start-finish straight. The gap less than 1/10 of a second as they came across the last timing sensor. And there is the move. That is Cohen taking Mattia for 6th place, but it's also opened the door for Kelstrup. Will Kelstrup take 7th place from Mattia as they come around the right-hander at turn 2? No, he can't. Mattia very much forcing Kelstrup wide. That is the gap there for 6th, 7th and 8th positions. But it keeps Bordas in play. Bordas there in 9th place, only a few tenths behind Kelstrup in 8th. Ogard also still there, half a second further back. Cohen has gifted himself half a second gap over Mattia. Will it be enough to kind of break this train for him and solidify that top 6 position? Less than 5 minutes left now, plus 1 lap. Vantoff leads, the gap over Ryabal 4.1 seconds, and a couple of seconds gap to Jose Pepe Marti. Oliveira, 4th place. Arkanchelski in 5th place. That's a good result so far for the 2 DriveX runners in 4th and 5th position. 6th is Rick Cohen in the MP Motorsport machine. At 7th place, Daniel Mattia in the Formula de Camping Oscar. And George Kelstrup, 8th place in the MP Motorsport entry. Enric Bordas running 9th, down from the 4th place starting position. Kelstrup is closing in on Mattia, but can he get close enough to make a move here? As this suggests right now, he can't, but he will be pressurizing the Spanish youngster. Cole, meanwhile, sprinting away as Ryabov, 2nd place, the green and black GRS entry, holding a very solid gap now over Jose Pepe Marti in 3rd place. But Marti may be under a slight bit of pressure from Oliveira and Arkanchelski just behind. But again, it's not so much pressure that he's necessarily looking in his mirrors at all time, but he just will be aware that they're there. And a long gap between Arkin Kelski and Rick Cohn. Van't Hoff leading the race. We've barely seen him today so far. 4.6 seconds. And that's a very good result for Van't Hoff, not just because he's in the lead, but starts at races so far this season has occasionally been his weak spot. He has had several mini stalls, as it were, and lost many positions at the beginning of races. But today he nailed it. Straight into the lead at the start. No worries. Didn't really have any threat from Rybov into turn one. Rybov, to be fair, was looking in his mirrors closer to Josep Marti. Marti will be hoping for a similar start for race 2 later on today. Marti with pole position for race 2 this afternoon. And oh, there's a lock up there of one of the DriveX cars. And this is between Mattia and Kelstrup. And is Kelstrup going to force around the outside? He tried this a few laps ago, didn't quite work, and he's holding the inside, what will become the inside line. But Mattia forces him out wide and is able to keep that position going. And still the gap. There's no to tail there between 7th and 8th positions. Kelstrup desperately looking for a way past. Mattia desperately hoping to keep him back. And they've lost a few seconds to Cohn. Cohn's off in the distance now. And I'm assuming at this point with 1 minute 20 plus 1 lap, we're probably only 3 laps left. And Mattia continues to be pushed by Kelstrup. They go slightly wide coming around the left-hander. See Kels just behind them. Bornas under a little bit of pressure from Ågaard. And Ågaard has actually got through in the background. Bornas loses another position. He's down in 10th place. And meanwhile, Mattia still under pressure from Kelstrup as they come towards the rear end of the circuit. You can see Mattia beginning to slide somewhat. Maybe those tyres have been pushed a little bit too far. Kelstrup coming onto the back straight, exiting turn 15. And this will lead into the long turn 16 left-hander. But can Kelstrup get close enough, draft close enough to try and slingshot his way around the outside? Mattia placing his car in the middle of the circuit in the entry, and you see he's definitely sliding, he's definitely losing grip. This is going to be a struggle for Mattia to hold on for the next couple of laps. Still, Kelstrup just remains behind. Lost a little bit of time last time round. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. I think May probably dropped a little bit too far back, exiting the final corner to make any move. We can definitely see, I think with the rear tyres particularly, Mattia is beginning to struggle. He's sliding somewhat more coming into the corners. He's taking a little bit longer to get acceleration down on corner exit as well. Mattia and the orange machine with the white and black engine cover. Then you have got Kelstrup in the white and light blue car just behind them. You have Ågaard in the white car with the black nose box. Then you have Bordas 10th place, the orange car with the black engine cover. Then at the back of that pack is Zanfari, 11th place, the red car. He desperately wants to make a move. 11th place is the first of the non-scorers. Mattia it's not quite building a gap. It's half a second, but that can easily go away. And again now, onto the back straight. You're seeing some of the front runners coming through to start their final lap. Mattia, then Kelstrup, and Ryabov second place. Again, ever since he got past Marty, we've not really seen him. He is fallen nearly 7 seconds behind race leader Ryabov. He's holding just under, there's a 1.7 second gap to Marty. But I think Ryabov will be very, very, very pleased with his efforts today. Second place from second on the grid. It's his first podium in Spanish Formula 4. Well, it will be when he does cross the line. Ahead of Josep Marti. Oliveira running fourth place. He'll be very pleased with that as well, as will Arkanchelski in fifth. But this man on screen now, Danilo Vanthof, he's completed 14 laps. He's on lap 15. He's been absolutely untouchable today. And so far, also with the fastest lap. So this will be a full score for Vanthof of 2 points for pole position, 25 points for the win, and a point for fastest lap. Someone's gone off. Yellow flags in the final sector. I didn't quite see who it was, but it doesn't matter to Vanthof, who takes the win regardless. Ahead of Ryabov, Marty third, Oliveira takes fourth, Arkanchelski takes fifth, Cohn finishes sixth. Mattia held on ahead of Kelstrup in the end, Ogard ninth, Bornas 10th. They're the point scorers. The real winner today is Danilo Vanthof. Pole position, race win, and fastest lap. That's 28 points to his total. To finish off the other runners, Zanfari took 11th place, the first of the non-scorers. Then you have in 12th place Espirito Santo. Gilles Molina came home 13th. Brandon Lee Oxley came home 14th. Oliver Mitchell finished 15th. Lola Lovenvoss came home 16th. She's the first of the female finishers in this race. Will get extra points in that category, ahead of Emily de Huus in 17th. Alexander Partashev 18th. Alejandro Garcia has just crossed the line in 19th. And Philippe Genique, the last of the runners, in 20th place. And I do believe that driver who went off, caused the yellow flag in the final lap of the race, was Jorge Campos. Well, a fantastic job by Vanthof. He'll be pleased. A fantastic job by Ryabov. He'll be pleased. Marty came home third. And maybe, just maybe, he'll be wondering that pushing so hard in those early laps possibly cost him second place in the end. But it doesn't really matter. He's come home the same place he finished. He'll be hoping that for race 2 later on when he starts on pole position. As you see the rest of the finishers on screen there, right down to 20th. 20 finishers. And the 3 non-finishers in the end. Jorge Campos, as I said, going off on that final lap. Noah Abramczyk and Noah Dengbal didn't quite make it to the end after they pulled into the pits earlier on in this race. Vanthof celebrating there with his crew. very, very, very happy contingent at MP Motorsport. They may well have found another Dutch gem here in the 17-year-old. And actually, it's just a note, happy birthday to Danilo van 't Hoff, who did turn 17 in the few days since the last round at Portimao. And there's the now vacant car for Jose Marti. One thing people probably will notice if you're watching this stream is, of course, these cars, the Tatos Formula 4 cars without the halo. We will have new cars next year. So this is the final year of the F4 2000, the T014 machine. The 2021 version will debut next year with the halo and all of the other monocoque improvements as well. So for now, we'll see the highlights of this race. Van 't Hoff getting away well at the start, heading Ryabov. Ryabov had a difficult first lap, allowed Marti through into second place. And that gap for second and third really let Van 't Hoff escape. But Ryabov pushed and absolutely pressed hard. Bordas was running fourth for a while. But even then, he fell into the clutches of Oliveira, Arkanchelski, Cohn, and Kelstrup behind. And eventually Ryabov pressed Marti, continuing to try to force an error from his rival. Did eventually get past, as Bordas did his best to hold off his rivals, but he too fell back through the field and eventually came home 10th place. And it was Daniel Matzia who took the honours for Formula de Campinos today. But here was a critical move. Ryabov going around pushing Jose Marti for second place and eventually making it stick to claim his first podium of the season. Following his disappointment last time out at Portimao, it was a welcome result. Matzia fought hard against Cohn, lost out there, but maintained ahead of Kelstrup as we hear the race winner, Danilo van 't
I
Hoff.
got pretty lucky with the boys behind fighting the whole race. So yeah, we just managed the tyres and kept our pace, and I think we did a good job.
And has been much different from Portimao?
Well, yeah, it's a different track, so of course it's going to be different. But yeah, I think we've been on top in every single track so far, and I'm just trying to keep it that way.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Like a driver who's going to slip up anytime soon, does he? And he is right. MP Motorsport and Danilo van 't Hoff have shown pace at every circuit they've been to so far. And that is his 5th win of the season. As we continue with the highlights from the race we've just seen. Van 't Hoff clearing the distance. Ryabov was second ahead of Marti. And quietly, Oliveira and Arjankelski took 4th and 5th positions. There was a battle meanwhile between Cohn and Kelstrup. This allowed Cohn eventually to get through to take Kelstrup, but then also take Matzia to come home in 6th place. And a very, 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 very daring effort it was too. But this was the man of the day. From pole position, he led the way. Well, Matzia, he did his best to hold off Kelstrup right to the end. As Van 't Hoff continued to lead, unchallenged. The gap across the line when he eventually did take the checkered flag, 6.5 seconds. A mammoth gap in Formula 4 terms. Ryabov in the background, taking second place, ahead of Marti. And the wind picking up at Motorland Aragon. Thankfully not the tricky weather we had yesterday. We will be back for race 2 later on today. That race starting at 1:05 Central European time, 12:05 if you're in the UK and Ireland. Great, of course, as per usual, based on the second best lap recorded in qualifying 1. And race 3 today will be running at 25 past 5 on the continent time, 25 past 4 if you're in UK and Ireland. That grid will be based on the fastest lap in race 2. The podium celebrations we have now as Josep Martí on the left-hand side, as Ryabov coming on the screen now in his green and black overalls, matching the green and black livery. And Danilo Vanthof, not just a race winner, also the rookie winner. Clasps hands with his rivals, takes the centre spot on the podium in a team representative from MP Motorsport. And we will hear the honours with the Dutch national anthem. Celebrations on the podium. A fantastic job by all 3 drivers, but Danilo Vanthof, that will take him past the 200-point marker in the Spanish Formula 4 Championship. And more celebrations too for the MP Motorsport team, who've proved so successful so far this season. See drivers and team member get together for the group photograph. That's 5 victories for the Dutch racer so far this season. Joke from Josep Martí, maybe stepping down slightly. You cannot question the quality of Danilo Vanthof so far this season. He has been quite spectacular. Not just when he's winning races, but even when things aren't going well, he's still finishing on the podium. And he's extended his gap in the championship quite significantly. Yeah, at the end of race 1, Danilo Vanthof now returning to the podium in the top step to take the trophy, or the celebrations, for also a highest finishing rookie. And Lola Lovenfoss coming onto the podium as well, taking her honours for winning the female trophy in this race. She's leading that category over Emily de Hughes. And once again, looking to the race we've just had, a fantastic job and by Danilo Vanthof to win with really some ease from Ryabov. And for all the action on circuit, it was very little incident. Some very good growing maturity there from several drivers, making sure they got home, brought their cars home whether in the points or just outside points. The critical thing about Spanish Formula 4, let us not forget, this is a learning championship. You can't learn if you finish in the gravel. This is a critical battle there in Ryabov, taking Josep Marti. And eventually solidifying that second place. Ryabov, by the way, will be starting second on the grid for today's second race. All the action from the event we've just seen, as we mentioned, Cohen and Kelstrup fighting hard with Mattia, and it was Cohen who was able to make it work. But Vanthoff really was the driver who controlled the efforts today. Kelstrup fought hard to try and get Mattia, couldn't manage it in the end. I think in the last couple of laps probably his tyres did wear off slightly. But it was Danilo Vanthoff who won the race from pole position, took fastest lap, full points. And he'll be hoping to score well today, but he's going to have a difficult time in race 2 from 8th on the grid. That comes later on this afternoon. That is going to be at 1:05 European time, 12:05 if you're in the UK and Ireland. Do please join us again for race 2 of the 4th round of the Spanish Formula 4 Championship as we hit the halfway point in this season. From myself, Lee O'Gorman, and all the Spanish Formula 4 crew, thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you later on today.